Sitcom Families Exposed.
My family life compared closer with the Manson family life than with the Partridge family life.
The Sitcom Scandals.
Tuesday at 9 on Fox 40.
Dad, could you pass?
No.
Okay.
You know what would be great for dessert?
Hot dogs.
You read my mind.
I'll boil the water.
No time.
Now, an all-new Fox special, TV Guide's truth behind the sitcom scandals.
Tonight, TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals. Learn what really happened behind the scenes at the Partridge family.
You know, we'll go in, there'll be like 40, 50,000 screaming girls. You go back to the hotel, you'll have as many of them as you want.
I think he blamed me. He thought I was the wicked stepmother.
Well, everybody caught me. I was peeking in on Susan Day while she was changing her clothes.
You'll hear what scandals threaten to rip apart Three's company.
I have not seen Suzanne since the last day that she came to work.
It really had to be, who are you with? You'd stand with the company or with her.
And John would go, oh, Chrissy, jump again. And she would jump because she was happy. And the boobs were bouncing, bouncing.
And find out what not-so-wholesome behavior was hidden behind the clean-cut Brady Bunch.
There were clothes on, there were some clothes off, but they said, put your clothes back on, put your clothes on and get out here.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll were very prevalent. It was very accepted. It was very hip.
Maureen's asleep. I would just jump into her bunk.
They were just absolutely at war with each other.
I actually do have a porn credit.
All on TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals. The Partridge family was based on the true story of a single mother who joined her children to form a rock and roll band. Even before the first show aired in 1970, the producers released a song recorded by the show's young leading man. I Think I Love You became a smash #1 hit, helping to put the Partridge family at the top of the ratings and launching David Cassidy into the world as a genuine superstar and music phenomenon.
Here's a triple E ticket. Yeah. Want to come on this ride with me? Here, hop in the limo, we'll get in the private jet, and then, you know, we'll go in, there'll be like 40, 50,000 screaming girls. You go back to the hotel, you'll have as many of them as you want.
But the fame and success that brought him love from millions of complete strangers only drove him further from the one person whose love and admiration he really sought. His father, Broadway musical actor Jack Cassidy.
David Cassidy is my stepson, and I married his father when he was 7 years old.
Well, I mean, both my mother and I both were abandoned by my father. He split, and it was like, see you later.
I think he blamed me. He thought I was the wicked stepmother, you know, that caused it.
Understand, there were 15 years of he wasn't around, and rarely around. And my mother once sent him a dime in the mail to call me. It's pretty awful, you know. My dad was having a lot of problems with my fame and with our success because he wasn't having it. Being married to Shirley Jones and her winning Academy Awards and getting starring roles in movies and him not being able to get a job and his son becoming David Cassidy.
We went to see him in one of the big stadiums. Jack was so disturbed, he said, you know, he's really a monkey in a cage. Who wants to be that? He wanted more for David than that.
I don't want to be a star. I wanted my father's respect, I think, more than anything.
That respect and affection would be something David would keep looking for most of his life. But the success of the Partridge family offered him several temporary solutions.
In the beginning, it was new, and it was wonderful. It was exciting. He had girls all over the place. If he saw a cute little girl out there, one he liked, then he'd say, okay, come on in. You know, he was very eager to, you know, be opened up sexually and physically and mentally and in every other way.
Susan and Shirley weren't shocked. You know, they knew who I was.
I may have just turned my back to it, and I probably did. I figured if that's what he wants to do, that's what he's going to do.
It's nothing I've ever been proud about.
He wanted to experience it all.
I was a good person. I was a good human being. I just was wild and 21 and living the life of everybody, I think, at that age, every male dreamt of.
I don't think there was a lot of drug use on the set. I mean, sometimes David Cassidy would open his dressing room door and just this waft of smoke would come out.
I wasn't doing drugs. I couldn't possibly. I've never, ever been able to justify it.
But, you know, it could have just been a special effect.
Can I tell you? He's full of
I never really lost my temper with Danny because I felt so sorry for him.
What did we used to call him? There's the onion in the rose patch. Something like that, I don't know.
I know they called me a 40-year-old midget. David Cassidy called me a dirty, greasy little pizza.
He never showered. He never took a bath.
Thanks, David.
Sometimes we'd have to take him and bathe him right on the set, you know. But it was sad because nobody was telling him. This was a little kid we're dealing with. He had a lot of problems at home.
My family life compared closer with the Manson family life than with the Partridge family life. I spent a lot of weekends with all of the cast members of the Partridge family.
I'd take him home on weekends to play with my kids and take him on different outings that I would take my children on.
He was a mess.
Danny was very early knowing about the birds and the bees.
My sexual awakening was on the show.
And acting it out, by the way.
Well, everybody caught me. I was peeking in on Susan Day while she was changing her clothes. And I wasn't subtle about it. I was on the roof of her dressing room, leaning over and looking down above the curtains. The first encounter I ever had was actually on the set of the Partridge Family. I was like 13, maybe 14. She was a grown woman. She was embarrassed. She was there to see David Cassidy. And David Cassidy apparently already had a whole room full of groupies as it was and just didn't have the time. I like to say that I gave that woman the best 30 seconds of her life.
The outrageous rumors about Danny Bonaducci didn't really start until years after the Partridge Family ended.
There have been some incredible things written about me in the papers, wild and torrid stories. The problem is they're all true. I got in a fight with a transvestite in Phoenix, Arizona, and he lost. Severely. But you know what, I'd like to make it clear that I didn't get in a fight with him because he's a transvestite. I'd have kicked that guy's ass no matter what he was wearing. He had it coming. Then I see the cops. And I went, okay, the guy from the Partridge Family just beating the bejesus out of a drag queen. This is gonna make hard copy. I gotta go. And I jumped in my car. There was a big police chase. It was a huge drag. It was a huge drag. Oh, pardon the pun.
David Cassidy's initial contract for the Partridge Family paid him only $600 per episode.
I was not very concerned about material possessions at 19. I mean, for what? What did I need? I had a stereo, you know, had a guitar, and I had a job, and I knew I could stay paying my rent for another year.
But by the end of the first year, his fan club was larger than the Beatles or Elvis. Fortunately for David, he was underage when he signed the contract, making it invalid. Renegotiating landed him the then unheard-of sum of $4,000 per episode.
That didn't matter to me, because within 6 months, I was making thousands and thousands of dollars doing concerts. And within a year, I was making $25,000 to $50,000 a night. So it didn't even matter to me what I was making on my television series, because there was money coming in from everywhere, you know. And I didn't care. I didn't care about the fame, I didn't care about the money. Honest to God, I never knew how much money I had. A bank manager years later said to me, do you know at one time you had $2 million in your checking account?
Coming up, David Cassidy and the tragedy that almost ended his career.
She had a heart condition, she got so excited, and she died. These things happen, and not my fault.
Suzanne Summers reveals the greed that threatened to break up Three's company.
John and Joyce and I, we had favored nations, so whatever I went after, they were going to get. Even if they could just sit there and shut up like clams, they were going to get what I got.
And the Brady Bunch's Chris Knight tells the truth about his backseat romance with Eve Plum.
There were clothes on, there were some clothes off, but they said put your clothes back on. Put your clothes on and get out here.
All when TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals, returns.
TV Guide's Truth Behind the Sitcom Scandals is brought to you by Big Kmart, changing for the better.
Come on, girl, it's time to shake things up. Get a good groove, get out of this rut. Talking woman to woman, friend to friend. We've come a mighty long way. Let's do it again. Changing for the better. Just like we knew we could. Doing it together. And it sure feels good. Change, change, change. Yeah, for the better.
7,000 times a day, 685 times an hour. Once every 6 seconds, A GM owner puts their stamp of approval on the quality of our cars and trucks by coming back to buy another GM. It's the highest loyalty of any company in the industry. And to us, the highest compliment.
Let's go.
Dad, can I talk to you about something?
What's up?
Well, you know, I'm not little anymore, Dad.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I could ride a two-wheeler now. What I'm trying to say is, Dad,
Yeah.
am I too big for a Happy Meal?
Big Mac for me and,
One for me, too.
2 Big Macs.
2 Big Macs. Hey, Dad, how do you start this thing?
Hey, man, how come every time I call you, you're on the phone? Who are you talking to?
My friends, family. I call them a lot since I don't get to see them that much.
Phone bills must be killing you.
Not at all. I dial 10-10-321. It's only 8 cents a minute for calls over 10 minutes. That's 50% off.
And when you're talking with family and friends, you just know you're going to be on for a while.
Sounds good. My wife's on the phone all the time with her sister. Hey, man, am I ever going to get to shoot?
Not when you're playing against me.
Are Steve's bachelor days over?
What are you doing?
Would you do me the incredible honor of being my wife?
An all-new 90210. Then, when the unspeakable happens...
He's gonna be okay, right?
How will their family react? An all-new Get Real. It all starts at 8/7 Central, Fox Wednesday.
David Cassidy parlayed the success of the Partridge Family into one of the most hectic performance schedules ever attempted. He was taping the TV show on weekdays, going to the recording studio at night, and flying around the world for his concert tour on weekends.
I wished that everyone could have stood in my shoes for 2 minutes just to experience what that is like. Stand at the focal point of 50,000 people screaming at you. From every point in a stadium, you're at the focal point of screaming that they loved you. It's overpowering.
He became the teen idol of America.
I love you. I love you.
And then the craziness started.
It was insane. It was an insane life.
I can see where it got scary for David.
It was very intense. Oh no, there were 40,000 people following us.
The lengths that they used to have to go to keep him away from the girls, because there were so many girls, they do damage to him.
I love you.
David had big hunks of his hair cut out. I mean, they could rip apart cars.
I couldn't go in the limos. They turned the limos over. They destroyed 5 or 6 limos when I played in Madison Square Garden.
Like the jaws of life, these girls.
Glamorous, isn't it? Yeah, people thought it was really glamorous. Fame, it's a beautiful thing.
Off-screen, David Cassidy may have been living the life that every male dreamt of, but on-screen and to his millions of fans, he was known as Keith Partridge, the squeaky clean singer of bubblegum rock. Not quite the image a serious musician is eager to convey.
Well, I think the Rolling Stone interview was probably one of the first pieces that 90% of it spoke my real voice.
If memory serves, he was spoke about his fans, the young teeny boppers, in a rather derogatory fashion. He made reference to smoking pot.
The Rolling Stone interview for me was just bizarre. He was tired of being Keith Partridge, and he figured that he had something more to say and was eager to get on with it. And I think that the Rolling Stone interview was the beginning of that, and perhaps the beginning of the end of Keith Partridge for him.
There's a fine line between fan and fanatic, and for David, that line was about to be crossed.
I come home from work at about 11 o'clock one night, and I'd just come from the recording studio, and my manager calls me on the phone and says, where are you? I'm in the bedroom. Go lock the door. There's been a kidnapping threat. It's very real. This is very serious.
I saw the fear that he was going through, and of course from then on, we had people posted everywhere, you know. I think the FBI finally came into it.
And I became extraordinarily paranoid. Cars were following me all the time. I had to take, separate routes in. I'd have to meet somebody at a different place, even before this and after this happened, to get into the set. I was just holding on, because it was like, it turned into an instant runaway train,
One of the most outrageous rumors about David and the Partridge Family happened during this kidnapping attempt.
I moved out with a Pinkerton man, a Pinkerton guy, which, of course, looking the way I looked and dressing the way I dressed, being skinny with long hair and with my own physicality, showing up on the set the next day with a Pinkerton guy named, Frank or Chuck or something. And he stayed with me and actually walked all the way to the bathroom with me and back the whole day and the whole night. He slept in the same room with me. It was a little difficult to try and explain to people, and I couldn't tell anyone. Who's this guy that's traveling with David? So of course the rumors spread instantly that I was like hanging out with this guy and that, I had chosen another road.
In spite of the threat to his safety, David continued on his grueling schedule of TV and concert appearances.
I began to see a burnout happen with David, and it concerned me a lot.
I was working 16 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I never stopped from that day that I said, yes, I'll do it, for 5 years.
I don't know when the man slept, and the fatigue did become, not only visible, but a real concern.
At the end of the 4th season, David Cassidy had had enough. He announced that he was ending his involvement with the Partridge Family and was going on his final concert tour.
I was upset that he didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to, but I understood. I understood why he didn't. He was, at that point, truly just ready to chuck the whole business.
I don't think they ever hated me for it, but I think a lot of them were. I know the mothers were disappointed, he's ending our job, there goes our meal ticket.
I just assumed the show was canceled, and that is not the case. The case is that David pretty much didn't want to do it anymore and quit. And I just found out this recently, so I haven't had 20 years to get over it, so now I'm really mad.
When I said stop and I ended it, with all of the touring that I did in the last year after the Partridge Family finished, I went on this world tour to stadiums all over the world, and that tour was just so out of control.
The exhausting concert schedule continued until a tragic incident at a performance in England resulted in the death of a fan.
A lot of people thought that because the girl with a heart condition died in England, in my next to the last concert at White City Stadium, that was the reason I stopped.
I think that particular episode when the girl died because of the crowd, I think that probably affected him more than anything.
I had no control. She wasn't crushed. She had a heart condition. She got so excited and she died. These things happen, and not my fault. That
began the sort of reclusive thing that started to happen to David.
My life and my private life was my private life. When the curtain came down, leave me alone. And if somebody didn't leave me alone, I was not a happy camper, and I was not somebody that you wanted to mess with.
It was difficult to see David in that position after the Partridge Family and to become the recluse that he became for a year.
Both David and the millions of dollars he had earned disappeared as he sank deeper and deeper into depression.
Those I call my dark years because my father died and my manager died, and it was very painful. I prefer not to talk about it because it's just painful. Wallowing in self-pity is such a bore and so unattractive. And, mourning the death of your father and not being able to get his love is one thing, and it's the way it goes. Live and learn.
Coming up, Suzanne Summers and Joyce DeWitt talk about the real John Ritter.
John obviously didn't get enough or had too much or whatever, but...
I don't know if you can say that on TV, and I don't know if it's fair to John to say that.
And Mike Lookenland tells us the truth behind the wholesome Brady Bunch image.
Kids will be kids. You leave them alone long enough, they'll do something wrong, believe me.
All when we return to TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals.
Let's be honest. There's really no such thing as a gracious winner. You might say things like nice game or shake your opponent's hand. But no matter how humble you are on the outside, deep down on the inside, you're saying, I'm better than you are. The Mitsubishi Galant, ranked the #1 family sedan under 20 grand by Car and Driver. Better than Accord or Camry. Boy, we just love saying that.
We have a stand-up in progress at 211 Hazelwood.
He's in there.
Sir, drop the chalupa. Put it down and back away.
Sir, don't be silly. Drop the chalupa.
I said, drop the chalupa.
Yeah, drop the chalupa.
Get your hands on the new chalupa. With a shell so crispy, flaky, chewy, tasty, you'll wonder why we put stuff in it at all. Just 99 cents, only at Taco Bell.
Better get some backup.
Roger. Fox Thursday begins with an all-new special. World's most dangerous chases, crashes, and busts. Then it's an all-new Family Guy of biblical proportions.
Charming, like when God told Abraham to kill Isaac.
Hey! Plus, Sandra Bullock guest stars on an all-new Action. It all starts at 8/7 Central, Fox Thursday. If you've ever wondered what makes a hero, you're about to find out.
Welcome to the job.
Ryan Caulfield, Year One, series premiere October 15th on Fox.
What are you building?
I'm building. Mr. Frisbee's giving me a.
Giving you a.
His real name's, but we call him. Mr. Frisbee's keeping him for me till I get the. And know what else? He gave Aunt B a.
A what?
Looking for big-name tires at little prices? You found it! America's Tire Company has the largest selection of brand-name tires in stock, ready to go. Like Goodyear radials as low as $25 a tire, BF Goodrich radials as low as $30 a tire, Michelin radials as low as $35 a tire. Save even more with America's Tire, as low as $15 a tire. For the biggest names in tires at the lowest prices, all you need to know is America's Tire Company.
Jack? Oh, hi, sweetheart. Yeah, I know it's late. I'm still working on a name for the new bacon cheeseburger. The one with sizzling bacon and real bacon bits, so there's bacon in every bite. Yeah, it'll be hot, because we won't make it till it's ordered. Well, the only name I've got so far is Bacon Cheeseburger, so I'm gonna keep working here and... You're wearing what?
Sometimes style just comes naturally. The men's fall fashion sale at Mervyn's, California. Going on now.
Watch Seinfeld weeknights at 7:30 on Fox 40.
From the moment Three's Company hit the air, it was a ratings blockbuster. Not surprising, since the sexy story of two young single women sharing an apartment with a young man had already been a hit on British TV. But as popular as it was with most Americans, it was equally unpopular with a very vocal minority.
There was this dude, the Right Honorable Reverend Donald Wildman, who came out, the Coalition for Better Television. And he basically said things like Charlie's Angels in Dallas, and especially that devil show, Three's Company, was bringing the downfall of American civilization.
Interviewers always ask about the show being titillating.
Okay, Chrissy, I'll get in the tub with you, then we can get it on.
So Procter & Gamble, with all their great courage, pulled out of the show. And I know this show will be represented by Procter & Gamble, but they went, ooh, and so they left us. And I went out on talk shows, and I said, if you like any of these shows, buy 2 of everything you see advertised.
The truth is, the press did its thing about that. And Suzanne did her thing to become a sex symbol.
So I'm in a nightgown.
And the rag sheets did their thing to make that all just really unattractive.
There was a reason for wearing those little nightgowns. She had not really grown up enough to realize that she didn't have to wear the same nightgown she wore when she was a little girl. She didn't know that she had this body. That's why when Chrissy Snow jumped, and John would go, oh, Chrissy, jump again, and she would jump because she was happy, and then boobs were bouncing. I think that's where that Queen of the Jiggle came about.
What many people didn't know is both girls were hookers. Larry, Richard Klein, was the pimp. See, people don't know this because they broke away for commercials. They missed all the good stuff.
The atmosphere on the set at Three's Company was idiotic. It was stupid. It was too silly for words. People would do anything.
John obviously didn't get enough or had too much or whatever, but...
I don't know if you can say that on TV, and I don't know if it's fair to John to say that he was...
Chairs, tables, whatever.
But he did.
They came out with this thing about, John, would you endorse this pill to, you know, like some kind of Viagra thing? And I said, no, I won't do that. And why come to me? I'm fine.
There are days when we laugh so hard, tears would be coming out of our eyes. And though that was the good part.
The three stars were having the time of their lives with all the fame and publicity that goes along with being on TV's hottest comedy. But the same publicity that celebrated Three's Company's success would also trigger their breakup.
I think the Newsweek cover was the beginning of ick.
The beginning of the difficulty. Let's see. Again, it was the hooking.
The producers, they knew I was going to be featured on the Newsweek cover, but didn't tell any of us. So when the photographer had the job of getting me in the middle without me knowing why I'm in the middle, and I'm deferring to John and Joyce because they have been with the show longer than I am. But I'm the one in the little nightgown. They keep putting Joyce down here and John over my shoulder, and I am uncomfortable. And I, at one point, took one of the producers backstage and I said, I don't know what's going on, but it feels like I'm being featured and it's really uncomfortable. And he says, you're not. We're putting everyone, they're going to decide later. So there was this deception going on, but it certainly looked like I knew what was going on.
You know, I started working on the stage when I was 13.
I had been a working actor before Three's Company.
I'm the last one in, and now I'm rising up. It's not fun for the rest of the group. I'm trying to put myself in that position of, well, I'm the one who took all the classes and went to school, and I'm the one with all the degrees, and I'm the one who got all the kudos and all the scholarships and the awards, and this one, who's done nothing, is now rising up.
I don't live my life based on those kinds of external things.
I remember when she said, I'm an actress, I'm not a celebrity, and she pushed the press away. So the press goes, oh, okay. And they go on to the next one. I mean, you know, it's like a revolving door. And I was, press? Yeah, sure, great. And so that became a sore subject that I was commercial and not an actor and all that. But I think once that she saw what was happening, then she was dog paddling to catch up. And the press had already moved on to the next flavor of the month, whatever that was, so that she was catching up. And so there was this frustration and agitation.
Joyce came to me a couple of times and was very upset. And we just had to calm her down and tell her, this is Suzanne's personality, this is what Suzanne wants, and you're just going to have to ride with it.
She worked it. I mean, she worked it. We all worked it. Why wouldn't you work it, you know?
Once fame had come between the stars of Three's Company, it wasn't long before fortune entered into the picture.
On the end of the season, before next season started, we're sitting backstage getting ready, and I said to them, my contract is up next year. I'm going to go for a piece of the profits. And John said, go for it.
Whatever Suzanne, you know, wanted or whatever they wanted to pay her was none of my business.
There's a lot of money, and so it'd be real nice, like on other shows, if John and Joyce and I all had a little piece of this pie.
Well, we had already renegotiated the contract several times voluntarily when the show hit. She started out at $2,500 an episode, and at this point between the fourth and the fifth year, she was earning $30,000 an episode.
They could not afford what the agents were going. I'd like a meeting here.
If Suzanne was asking for 150, I would say that Joyce would be asking for a number close to that. And John would be asking for something, since he's the star, above that. So that brings us up to 3 people, close to $500,000, which was way beyond what could be sustained by a half-hour situation comedy in those days.
John and Joyce and I, we had favored nations, so whatever I went after, they were going to get. Even if they could just sit there and shut up like clams, they were going to get what I got.
I mean, if she could have gotten it, and they would have given it, fine, but it wasn't mine to ask for, and it wasn't mine to give. The only thing was, for me, is like, let's go back to work.
It was just short-sighted of them, I think.
I sort of like to view it as very simple. You know, we're all very lucky to be working.
I ought to be grateful for having my one big night in the spotlight, because it is a lot more than I ever dreamed of having in my whole life.
Suzanne's secretary had called, and she couldn't get out of bed. Now, she had rehearsed all week long. I said, what's the problem? He said, well, she has a bad back, and she can't make it.
There was a back injury. I was renegotiating. We used it, but it was there.
We wanted to send our doctor to examine her, our insurance company doctor, and they wouldn't permit it. And it became very obvious this was a ploy.
I had the x-rays. They didn't want to see the x-rays.
She's holding the show hostage.
It all was just the ickiest, darkest week.
She was persona non grata with the cast. They felt, and rightfully so, that she was affecting their livelihood by holding the show hostage in the way she did.
It really had to be, who are you with? You'd stand with the company or with her, you know, and it was really clear, you know, and she was doing it for herself.
We then went to the network and said, we said, she's in breach of contract. And they said, well, you can't fire her because it'll affect the ratings. So we worked out a plan where she couldn't hurt the show by putting her in the tag at the end of the show, each show.
They had the security guard meet me at the back door and walk me in so that I wouldn't run into anyone. They had my hair and makeup person do that. And then they built a set for me behind the stage. I wasn't allowed on the stage anymore. And I knew everyone involved with the show was watching because it was like a morgue. And that place was always busy on show day. When they knew I was coming, everyone went off into their holes and watched their monitor, and you knew they were watching. And a couple times I broke down and sobbed with my lone cameraman there, and that was a dark time. I went into a depression for about a year.
She was making a great deal of money at Three's Company, and had she stayed, based on what Joyce earned after Suzanne left the show, Suzanne would have received money in the millions.
Life is all about choices. All of us made wrong choices in this whole thing. Me too, wow.
It got a little imbalanced for a while, and she put herself in front of it, and unfortunately it cost her, and she knows that. No news to her.
I didn't want to leave the show. I never wanted to leave that show. I was so sad when my husband came home and said, it's over.
When we return, the Brady Bunch hormones run riot.
This idea dawned on me. Maureen's asleep. I would just jump into her bunk.
The police come. They said, put your clothes back on. Put your clothes on and get out here.
All when we continue with TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals.
Is that what I think it is? But it's just a...
Try it.
Incredible. The wireless internet right here in my hand. News, sports, even Yahoo, all on Sprint PCS. And the calls?
Clear digital calls. Nothing else has changed.
Do you think they're ready?
Some are. Others will follow.
Introducing the Sprint PCS wireless web.
Driving my Saturn through the intersection when the truck ran the red light. To tell you the truth, I can't remember what I was thinking while it was happening. Suddenly, I was spinning around. My car hit the truck that hit me, sending me into another spin. Backwards into a pole. Afterwards, when I realized I'd walked away from the accident, I do remember thinking one thing. That my Saturn safety features had pretty much sold me on buying another one. They tell me this year's S-Series has a lot of new features, but I'm still kind of partial to some of the old ones.
No two women are shaped exactly alike. That's why a woman gynecologist designed OB, the first tampon with individually wound layers that expand to fit each woman's individual shape. A tampon that was different from all the rest to give you truly personalized protection. The OB tampon, also available with an applicator. OB, protection fit for you.
Gimme a head with hair, long, beautiful hair, shining, gleaming, steaming, flaxen, waxen, a home for fleas, a hive for bees, a nest for birds, ain't no words for the beauty, the splendor, the wonder of my hair.
My dad didn't talk to me about it at all. He's too embarrassed about talking about it, about sex.
The event you thought would never come.
This is where I belonged my whole life.
The goodbye you thought would never happen.
I love you, you know that.
Find what you're looking for, Sarah, no matter what it takes.
The new season you have to see.
Mom and Dad, we never let go.
Party of 5 on a new night. Season premiere next Tuesday at 9/8 Central on Fox. What if your soulmate in one world
I love you, dumbass.
was a complete stranger in another? She's not real. She's a virtual character. From the creator of The X-Files.
Somewhere inside, you gotta know who your heart was meant for.
Harsh Realm. Series premiere Friday, October 8th on Fox.
It would be difficult to think of a TV show more wholesome than The Brady Bunch. But what actually happened behind the scenes has all the ingredients of a Hollywood scandal. At various times, different cast members have disassociated themselves with the Brady Bunch. On this program, Maureen McCormick has declined to participate. The Brady Bunch told the story of a widower with 3 boys who marries a divorcee with 3 girls. The on-screen blending of these 2 sets of children was the basis for some of the series' best shows. The off-screen blending of these 6 children provided even more interesting stories.
This is Brady Sex. I know that we were 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls, stuck together with nothing but adults all around us for all those years. And we were interested in each other, absolutely, no question about it.
I'm 17, 18, and I think fair to say hormonally driven. I would walk by a interesting pattern of wallpaper sometimes, and I was excited.
One question, always. Have you done Eve? Have you done Maureen?
It's like that's all that anybody wants to know.
For lack of other choices, we all got paired up.
I was in love with Susan. She was just my world, just the greatest thing.
We'd go into the tiger's doghouse to make out, and we didn't know how to kiss. Or, you know, we just hug each other, go, I love you, I love you.
When it became apparent that Eve Plum and Maureen McCormick were growing up, then, of course, you know, Susan was out of the picture, and I was after Eve.
Eve had now developed. She had breasts, and I was noticing it.
Well, Maureen and Eve wanted to go braless. Well, gosh, this show would be even more popular now in syndication if they had.
We had little tiny dressing rooms like that you could tow around. When we weren't working and we didn't have school, we'd hang out in there, and you know, kids will be kids. You leave them alone long enough, they'll do something wrong, believe me.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll were very prevalent. It was very accepted. It was very hip.
Robert Reed was generous enough to invite all the Brady Bunch kids to accompany him and to go together, basically as a family, to London. And we got to go on this ship, the QE2, the Queen Elizabeth II, beautiful ship out of New York. And I was thinking, great time to make some moves.
Barry and I stayed in a cabin, and even Maureen stayed in a cabin. Well, Barry was definitely going to make something happen with Maureen on this ship.
For me, a big part of that trip was just about, you know, how to orchestrate the whole thing around to where, you know, I might actually become her stateroom mate.
Well, Maureen had to be alone in her room, which meant that I was alone in our room.
Eve Plum, played Jan, had this tremendous crush on Christopher Knight, played Peter. And so I was looking to see how I could use that to my advantage.
They worked this whole thing out. They didn't need to involve me because, you know, I'm kind of like Mikey, you know? just, he'll eat it. I mean, he'll eat anything. I'm just sitting there, you know, just like having things happen to me.
I knocked on the door and I said, Eve, I think Chris wants to see you.
I'm sure I was quite thrilled at the time.
She jumps out, bolts out of there and over to my stateroom, which gave me entree to their stateroom.
I could guarantee you nothing happened.
She's nibbling on my ear and my neck.
Oh, see, now you've got a great better memory than I do.
So it was like, oh, I like this.
Maureen's asleep. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do then. And then I thought this idea dawned on me that I would just jump into her bunk. Maybe she wouldn't notice.
When it came down to it, I think that we were just too young to really, well, I was, you know, to really go through with anything.
I got in there and I hear this, Barry? And I said, shh, it's all right, it's all right. What in the heck are you doing? And I said, I just, well, didn't fly. Didn't fly, I was out of there.
Oh, look, Barry's back, you know.
That was one of the last grand attempts.
In 1994, Barry Williams published a book about what it was really like growing up Brady. It revealed many shocking behind-the-scenes moments with America's least shocking TV family. But nothing was more scandalous than the story of Barry's attempted off-screen romance with his TV mom, Florence Henderson.
Can Florence come out and play? I was all the time trying to get her attention, trying to make jokes, make me look good in her eyes, that kind of a thing. And then I hatched this scheme to take her out on a real live date. Never thinking for once that she, you know, coming at this from a completely different point of view. Basically, I'm just thinking in my best Greg Brady fashion how I'm going to score here. I invited her to go out to see a singer at a nightclub here in Los Angeles, and like much to my surprise and delight, she accepted this date, and I was like all ready to go. So I was saying goodnight to her and took a chance, and I got to give her a real kiss, and you know, innocent pressing of lips kind of thing, and but for me it was fireworks, and you know, it was never the same.
One of the Brady Bunch's most outrageous rumors concerns a very special evening between Chris Knight and Eve Plum.
The show's coming to an end, and I turned 16 and got my license and now had my own wheels and asked Eve on a date. So I guess I just decided we'd pick it up where we left it off on the QE2. It was supposed to be a sure thing. And not in that way, but in a sure thing in that she'd say yes and not say no. We ended up on Mulholland. In my truck. It's a romantic spot. We were in the back of the truck. It had a little cabin, you know, on it. The police come and shine flashlights in the car and ask us to get out. And there were clothes on, there were some clothes off, but they said, put your clothes back on, put your clothes on and get out here. And mind you, I was pretty much the student up until this point. You know, I was just giving her more of an opportunity to be the teacher. That's how I was looking at it.
Coming up, the Brady Bunch erupts in a battle of greed.
My mom was the greediest of all.
When it gets popular and money starts getting made, that's when the fights start.
Plus, the dark secret behind America's #1 father.
I knew that Bob was gay when I was 9.
All when TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals, returns.
Okay, we know there are enough calling plans on this planet.
Yeah, it's way too complicated. Make it simple.
I will. You see, with the new AT&T one-rate 7-cent plan, it's nothing but simple. It's 7 cents a minute all day, every day, whenever you call. There are no 10 numbers to dial.
Or those nickel rates that are sometimes a quarter.
No, that was not me. With AT&T one-rate, it's simple, period. So what was confusing is now not.
I like simple.
Simple is good.
And tomatoes.
Even better.
All day, every day. Call 1-800-41-RATE to enroll.
From Universal Pictures and Castle Rock Entertainment.
I've always been big on happy endings.
A Rob Reiner film about the times we live in.
It's so funny. It's chicken pox.
The things we live through.
My goldfish died. My hamster died.
Father's dying.
And the relationships that make us who we are.
I love you.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Bruce Willis.
Come on, Keith Riverdale.
The story of us.
Dad, pull yourself together.
Rated R. Starts October 15th.
The year 2000 Corolla. Millennium-proof dependability.
The wedding you've been waiting for and a goodbye you won't believe.
Find what you're looking for, Sarah. No matter what it takes.
The new season of Party of Five begins next Tuesday.
Tonight on Fox 40 News at 10.
She let her 6-year-old be used in a sex film, but will mom have to go to prison for it? Plus, using holistic medicine on your own cat, is it animal cruelty?
Aha! Got it!
What is it, Professor?
I've discovered a way to get all long-distance calls for only 99 cents.
99 cents? Impossible.
Observe. I simply dial 10-10-220, then 1 and the number, and all calls up to 20 minutes, only 99 cents.
And after 20 minutes?
It's just 9 cents a minute.
That's genius.
I know. Who asked you?
Discover 10-10-220 for yourself.
It's the beat of a different drummer. Dodge Intrepid. Well-equipped 19950.
We have a stand-up in progress at 211 Hazelwood.
He's in there.
Sir, drop the chalupa. Put it down and back away.
Sir, don't be silly. Drop the chalupa.
I said, drop the chalupa.
Yeah, drop the chalupa.
Get your hands on the new chalupa. With a shell so crispy, flaky, chewy, tasty, you'll wonder why we put stuff in it at all. Just 99 cents, only at Taco Bell.
Better get some backup.
Roger.
Though the Brady Bunch was never a critical or top 10 hit, the series was very successful financially, and it wasn't long before confrontations erupted over higher salaries and creative demands. Eventually, an attempt was made to take control of the show, away from its creator and producer, Sherwood Schwartz.
Who was greedy on the show? My mom was the greediest of all. She was probably the ringleader in wanting more money.
And so these kids, or their parents, hired 2 attorneys.
Basically, the idea was to take the ownership of the show away from him. But it was so completely unethical.
And they said the kids have been terribly underpaid.
We were a factory making a product.
Because this is one of the highest rated shows in the history of show business. They blustered in with a threat they're going to remove the kids from the show, which of course they couldn't because there were contracts.
We got a lawyer who started seeing dollar signs whenever he looked at us. And because the show was a hit, we were doing music and this and that, you know, more money was in order.
When it gets popular and money starts getting made, that's when the fights start. So that killed it. And we were really just starting to get some momentum.
The financial disagreements of the Brady Bunch were minor, however, compared to the ongoing struggle between the show's creator and the actor who played Mike Brady, Robert Reed. Schwartz originally wanted a newcomer for the role, an actor named Gene Hackman, but he was convinced by Paramount executives to give the part to Reed, a studio contract player. The fireworks were immediate and constant.
We have 2 father figures. We have Robert Reed, who very much treated us like a father. Very kind, very protective, very good man. And we have Sherwood Schwartz, who who you could say all the same things about.
I never let anything leak that there was any problems between their TV father and me.
They were just absolutely at war with each other.
I can remember some tense moments on the set.
It wasn't always, you know, a real happy place to be.
Blow-ups all the time.
A lot of Bob's complaints were just, you know, just the fact that he didn't want to be in that show. He didn't want to be working with the producers that he's working with.
He hated everything. And since I represented, in his mind, everything, he hated me the most.
And the battles were of a severe nature, and they were ongoing.
His hatred also lent itself to my son, who was my producer. I was the executive producer.
I differ from my dad in terms of my opinion of Robert. I'm harder on him because I don't believe he should get any credit for anything about his kindness toward the kids.
He was very generous with the kids, and he loved them.
When he would do things for them, he was really trying to buy their affection, because what he was really doing, in my opinion, was fighting for control of the family. And if he was the head of the family in his head somewhere, then there was really no place for Sherwood or myself. He had to get rid of us, and he spent 5 years trying to do that. And he was most unkind and sometimes just brutal.
Bob was really trying to make trouble over a lot of things that really didn't matter.
Here's an example. Mrs. Brady and the housekeeper, Alice, were each cooking a pot of strawberries to enter in a festival of some sort. And he was supposed to come to this archway and take a deep breath and say, "This smells like strawberry heaven." He said, "Here's the Encyclopedia Britannica. It says," and I quote, "strawberries while cooking have no odor. I smelled strawberries in the kitchen. I smelled strawberries in the living room. I said, I smell strawberries here in your dressing room." And he'd say, "Do you want me to believe you or the Encyclopedia Britannica?"
Even Florence would sometimes lash out at Bob and say, "Look, hit your mark, say your lines," and, you know, of course he didn't appreciate that.
He said, "I refuse to put up with it." And Ann B, finally, she's a wonderful lady, but she'd been fed up with this too. And she said, "How deep is your Mr. Brady?"
When we come back, you'll hear the truth about Robert Reed's scandalous double life.
All this sordid sex stuff. Brady Bunch, father, dies of AIDS.
And you'll learn the real story behind Susan Olsen's post-Brady career.
I actually do have a porn credit.
When TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcom scandals continues.
Coming up on Fox 40 News.
It's Michael J. Fox like you've never seen him before.
And far too often, Parkinson's patients wait and wait, as I am right now, for the medicines to kick in.
The news starts in 6 minutes.
Come and play a game with me. We'll have fun together, wait and see. It's me and you and me. Come and play a game with me.
Parker Brothers and Milton Bradley bring you My First Games. Games that'll have them counting and taking turns as young as 3. They take just minutes, but think of what you'll share.
Come and play a game with me.
Why is it that superheroes never have kids? Does changing diapers get in the way of fighting crime? Or could there be a simpler explanation? Make him look mad. Maybe superheroes just have a hard time finding a family sedan that the bad guys won't laugh at. The Mitsubishi Galant, ranked the #1 family sedan under 20 grand by Car and Driver. Battle Evil. Bring the kids.
Where do some of America's most successful people get their start? Did somebody say McDonald's?
I have a fantasy. Body fantasy. My senses are free, floating in a mist of flowers and fruit. My arms, my legs are weightless and flawless to the touch.
Body Fantasies by Parfums Decor.
Playing TV's #1 father was more than a professional strain to Robert Reed. His personal life held a secret that, if revealed, would not only shock the country, it could result in the cancellation of the Brady Bunch.
I knew his sexual preference.
I knew that Bob was gay when I was 9.
Well, that's a difficult thing to live with when you're the ideal father of the whole country, which is hundreds of millions of people, and at the same time, that's not really what you are or want to be. It's my belief, just a belief, that since he was really reckless in terms of one-night stands and things, that he wanted to get caught at some point or other. Otherwise, he'd have settled down with just a guy or 2 guys or whatever, but to be indiscriminate it's like playing Russian roulette. You know, you pull the trigger several times or 20 times maybe, even if it takes. A bullet's gonna hit you in the head. And finally it did.
When Bob passed away, the rags, the Inquirers and Stars, took his career and reduced it to like 2 sentences. And that really hurt, because he was a man of great ability and talent. And then it was all this sordid sex stuff. Brady Bunch, father dies of AIDS. And it was like, man, that would have killed him alone.
I'll say this. I think this is an important thing to say. Bob Reed, because he was such a stickler for things that didn't count, gave an air of believability to the show that would have been gone if I really went out and got a guy with a sense of humor. I would have lost. I would have lost the grounding in reality that Bob Reed gave the show, because he had no sense of humor. And that was helpful.
Perhaps the most outrageous sitcom rumor of all is the story of Susan Olsen and her career choice after the Brady Bunch.
There's a movie being circulated around amongst the troops during the Persian Gulf Crisis, and it was a movie called Crocodile Blondie. And the girl in it, they say, looked like me.
Well, I had certainly heard that Susan Olsen was a porno star. I know Susan. I'm not completely convinced she's not.
I actually do have a porn credit. I have a friend that worked in editing in the wonderful world of adult entertainment. I had just gotten a synthesizer and I was making like weird noises. And he called me up and he said, do you think you could do some like spaceship sound effect noises? And I said, yeah, that would be an interesting challenge. They were the background sound effects in Love Probe from a Warm Planet. And that is my porn credit. I do have one.
What if your soulmate in one world
I love you, dumb moms.
was a complete stranger in another?
Sophie, she's not real. She's a virtual character. Somewhere inside, you gotta know who your heart was meant for. Stay, you're a dead man.
You can't come past this fence. She's coming with me.
From the creator of The X-Files.
I believe the stories about another world and the man who's coming to save us.
Harsh Realm. Series premiere Friday, October 8th on Fox.
Next on Fox 40 News at 10.
A man charged with killing his own young son. Find out what cops say he did. Plus, a fast-moving fire tonight and the life's dream that went up in flames.
Expensive research equipment and a year's worth of work all gone to seed because of vandals. I'm Mindy Bach. We'll have that story coming up.
Her dad was the greatest. Now she wants to be just like him. And how you could be just like James Bond and get paid for it.
Fox 40 News at 10 starts right now.